Hello, my name is Rochelle Delia, and I own a health insurance agency. And I've been getting a lot of questions around how do you select which benefits you should select for your own health insurance and benefits. And so I just wanted to take some time to talk through benefit stacks and what you should really think about when it comes to selecting your own products and really making sure that you have the best coverage for yourself, for your budget, and the health that you currently have as you're making these decisions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Most people are asking things like, what are my benefits? And really focused on items such as 401k matching and other ancillary benefits, mental health services and things like that. Those things are incredibly important and certainly enhance the overall ability to leverage your benefits, particularly on the corporate side. But let's say you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, or you're someone who just wants to understand how to think about benefits in general. This video is for you. Now, I'm going to record this uncut, no editing, nothing like that, just straight to the point. And if you have any questions, then just go ahead and leave a comment below in this video, and I'm happy to answer them. Excuse me. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I just created a simple Word document to keep this super duper simple. So when we talk about planning and looking at our benefits, one of the main things that we want to talk about or think about is that we want to look at our own individual benefits. So not just what is provided on a group level, but what are we as an individual, what are we eligible for? And one of the biggest items is that the benefits themselves are portable. Portability means that no matter where life takes you, whether you stay with your current employer or not, or changing of your family situation, you want to make sure that those benefits literally are yours and that you have the option to keep them for life. And so I have this benefits planning checklist. And if you would like access to this checklist, just drop a comment below saying checklist, and I'm happy to share it with you. Okay. And so what this is this is a checklist that'll help you determine if you have any benefit gaps that may exist in your current plan, and then where you can take any steps to really shore up those gaps. And so the reason why this is so important is because medical debt is the number one source of bankruptcy in the United States. And so, people end up going to the hospital or just breaking a leg or just something simple. And because they don't have enough coverage or the right coverage that honestly meets their financial situation, then it really can spell disaster. As you know, it is very expensive to be sick. It is very expensive to get sick. It is very expensive to get into an accident. And so if you don't have enough funds to self-insure, then making sure that you have additional coverages in place is very, very important. Even if you do have the funds to self-insure, insurance in and of itself is a transference of risk. And so if I can put the risk of this event onto someone else in someone else's pocket, then that can be a very savvy financial move. And that's certainly what I choose to do and what a lot of my clients choose to do as well. And so, what we really want to look at is making sure that your coverages, and I'm specifically talking about health insurance. I'll speak a little bit about life insurance, but primarily health insurance and some of the risks that we have from our budget there. Because reality is, health insurance is a need. I'm of the opinion that life insurance is a need as well, but not everyone is of that opinion. And so it certainly depends on your financial situation, your opinions about legacy and things like that. So life insurance may not necessarily be a fit for everyone, but health insurance certainly is a necessity. And so what we want to do is think about your budget. And from a health insurance standpoint, we have things called premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. So a premium is literally the bill you get every month for having that coverage. So similar to auto insurance, you will pay a monthly premium to maintain that coverage. Premiums for health insurance work in the same way. However, once you start to use the plan, that's when you would incur additional expenses. And those are in the forms of co-pays as well as deductibles. So a deductible is the amount of money that you as an individual are responsible for before that insurance starts to kick in. Now, again, I'm going to use car insurance as a proxy just so it can be a little bit simpler to understand. So let's say that you had a fender bender, nothing too bad. You had it's $2,000 worth of damage on your vehicle. Well, if you had a $500 deductible, then you as the individual will be responsible for that $500, the first $500, and then your car insurance would pay the remaining 1,500. So total $2,000 repair, $500 is your responsibility as your deductible, and the insurance company covers the remaining portion. And so similarly, in health insurance, you have an annual deductible. It does reset on an annual basis, typically through that calendar year. Typically with health insurance, there are some preventative services that are included. So things like your annual well woman exam or just well-being exam. So well woman or well man, annual physical, and other items like that typically are included without any additional cost. But copays are items that are fixed services where there is a fee associated with it. So let's say you wanted to get an optional vaccine or something like that, or to have additional services or have additional testing done, then there would be a fee, sort of similar to the deductible, but a fixed rate that you would be responsible for. So I'll stop there. If you have extra questions, just put them in the comments below, but happy to answer that as well. The other thing we want to make sure is that our benefits are portable. That means that we can take them with us without the risk of a rate increase. Most of the time, you see this in the form of life insurance. So people will get a prepaid, let's say $50,000 or $100,000 worth of life insurance provided by the employer. And some people will think that they are good to go. And they are rudely awakened at the time of choosing to leave or leaving by whatever other measures. And they inquire about maintaining that coverage, and they are dismayed to see those rates are significantly higher. That's for two reasons. A lot of times, life insurance to an employer is offered at a group rate. So because they are insuring a lot of lives, they're able to provide coverage at a very reduced amount. So literally pennies on the dollar. Versus on individual coverage, you're only insuring your one life. And so therefore, if you keep it for life, there's a 100% chance that it will be paid out. And so and that's in the case of a permanent coverage, of course, then it will be more expensive. And so someone that chooses to, let's say, leave their employer in their 50s, they're used to having coverage for $20 a month, just, for rough numbers here. And it can be $200 per month. And so obviously, as persons get older, their likelihood of passing away through health or some other means, those chances increase. So the cost of insurance also increases. So it is typically recommended to secure your own coverage when you're younger because it is less expensive, sort of like saving for retirement. You have much more comfortable retirement with less money input if you just start saving early because now compound interest is working on your behalf. And so that same sort of idea comes into play here, particularly on the life insurance side. And another thing that I don't think people spend enough time thinking about is I like to purchase insurance to provide a liquidity event in the event of emergency or crisis. Here's what I mean. If someone close to you passes away, if you have a hospital admission, if your health is not the best, those are personal crises. And a lot of times we just want the world to stop. I like to say we want the world to stop. It's just a lot going on and we just need time to pause. As an adult, the way you have life to pause and to have a moment to breathe is to be able to pay things to go away. Okay, to be able to pay for stuff to be taken care of. If you don't feel well, you may want to pay for someone to bring you food, be that DoorDash, Instacart, whatever. You may want to pay for housekeeping. You may need to pay for additional childcare. All those things are basically wanting life to stop or to give yourself some breathing room. And the reality is that all cost cash. And so if you can arrange your affairs that in the event of one of these bad things happening, and none of us wants bad stuff to happen, But things are going to happen from time to time. And if you can arrange your affairs such that if they do happen, you receive a liquidity event, i.e., you get cash as a result of that, that can be just really fortunate relief. Even if you have your own savings, it's always nice when you receive a check. I don't care how much money you have. Having someone else give you money is always a very, very nice thing. And so that's really what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm not going to ramble. I don't want this to go on too long. But in this checklist, I do cover life insurance and some items to review around living benefits, tax advantages, and suitability and affordability. So if you have any questions about that, there's something called the DIME method, and I have more information. So again, just comment checklist below and I will certainly send that over. But as I mentioned, I'm going to spend the majority of our time talking about health insurance and what that is, right? And so health insurance is, of course, our major medical. And so the things that we want to discuss, as we talked about, in addition to the premiums, the copays, and deductibles, are also networks and maximum out of pocket. So what does that mean? Network is every physician, whether it's a dermatologist or a general practitioner, they tend to subscribe to these medical networks. And so one of the things that is really important is making sure that your physicians accept the coverage that you have. Now, if you're on a group medical plan, you don't always have the options, and you just kind of have to choose whatever doctors are within the network that your employer suggested or your employer selected. But on the individual side, you can say, I want to maintain my providers, and then now I'm going to select a health insurance plan that meets as many of my providers as I can find. And so that's exactly the service, the white glove service that my agency provides to individuals. The last thing you want to consider when it comes to health insurance is something called a maximum out of pocket. So this is kind of like a financial fail safe. It says, if poop hits the fan and everything goes awry, this is literally the max amount of money that you are responsible for on an annual basis. And so having that fail safe is incredibly important. Otherwise, you know, again, health items can become incredibly expensive. And if you don't have a cap or a stop loss on how much that can end up being to you, that can really spell financial disaster. And so that's really what we want to avoid. Some of the other things that people think about are dental insurance, dental and vision and hearing. Very, very important. Most people know how dental insurance works, vision and hearing. But these last three are ones I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, specifically hospital indemnity, short-term recovery, and critical illness. So if anyone's heard of Aflac and the Duck, then they're very famous for providing hospital indemnity coverage, which is in the event of hospital admission or an accident, then you'll get a cash benefit. Now, there are some plans that are not AFLAC that do provide more lucrative benefits for the same dollar amount. And certainly, if you're interested in that, you can, after you comment checklist below, if you want more information, then you can certainly inquire about that and happy to help. But basically, these are plans that you match with your major medical plan. So typically on hospital admission, there is a copay for that. And so let's say that copay is you would be responsible for $500 if you were to be admitted to the hospital. A hospital indemnity plan would be matched with that major medical plan where it would pay you at least, you would select one to pay you at least the $500 copay so that now you're at a net neutral. Okay. And certainly, and they typically do not coordinate benefits. So if you said, hey, I want to make sure my copay is covered, but also, parking at the hospital is expensive and so forth and so on. So I'd rather have $2,000 or $1,000 if I were ever admitted to the hospital. You certainly can do that. Okay. Short-term recovery plans work similar to short-term disability. So this says, hey, what if I'm hurt and for whatever reason or sick and for whatever reason cannot work? A short-term recovery plan will pay you a daily cash benefit to help you recover and pay your bills, again, hire that cleaning company, do whatever you need so that you're not in financial distraught because you're not able to go to work and get paid. Okay. And then the last one that I want to highlight is something that I don't think people think about enough, and that is critical illness coverage. So I like to ask people to think about their family's health history any medical risk factors they have, and be very frank about their own health condition. And if cancer runs in the family, if heart attacks run in the family, or strokes run in the family, then, critical illness coverage literally pays you a cash benefit in the event of a cancer diagnosis, a heart attack, or a stroke. There are some other illnesses that can trigger those benefits, but if that's something that runs in your family or something that you are interested in, again, just comment checklist below, and I'll send you this document as well as some additional information about these ancillary coverages, and really just kind of some thoughts around how to think about selecting your benefits for yourself. So hopefully this was helpful, short, sweet, to the point. And again, if you would like this checklist, just comment checklist below, and I'm happy to send it across. Thanks so much.